Hi, how's it going, day shift? Day people, day people. Hello, hello, hello. That's so annoying. Oh my god, look at this. Look at this coffee order I got. It's not even coffee. So, okay, here's the story. Here's the story. So, I normally get an iced black coffee. And like it's zero, like close as you can get to 0 calories. Like maybe it's like 5 calories or something for like a 24 ounce. But I've been reading a book on trauma and like how most people experience trauma and like how that builds up cortisol in the body. And like I've been dealing with like the fact that like I probably am overweight because of the fact that I am disabled and the fact that I have trauma from my disability and like years of trauma built up in my body and like the fact that it's given me cortisol and then I'm self-soothing through food, through like sugar and through caffeine, specifically sugar and caffeine, but like carbohydrates in general and like processed food. So like I was like, okay. Like I keep reading stuff about it and I'm like, man, like I really need to go on an anti-inflammation diet. Like I'm already vegetarian, almost vegan, but like I need to start avoiding foods that like are causing more inflammation in my body and like lessen the inflammation in my body. I just need to start because like one big thing I eat is I eat sugar, specifically caffeine, which is another trigger for me. Like I've limited the amount of caffeine, but like I need to like cut caffeine out of my diet specifically, which is why I'm drinking this. Because but I'll get to that. And then carbs, processed carbs, like simple carbs, and cheese, dairy, specifically like dairy. Like I don't eat a whole lot of eggs, but like I could probably easily cut eggs out of my diet. But like that's another like trigger inflammation food is eggs. So I'm like trying to cut these foods out of my diet to like lessen the inflammation in my body. So I want to cut dairy out. I want to cut eggs out of my diet. But I want to cut caffeine out of my diet and see how I do. So I went to go get my daily coffee and I was like I had looked up on the Biggby app, which is the local it's not local, but like it's Michigan coffee shop website. And I was like, one of the biggest anti-inflammation foods or inflammation, you can drink coffee and it is considered anti-inflammation, but it's caffeine and I'm trying to lessen the amount of caffeine in my diet. So like some anti-inflammation non-caffeinated drinks are green tea or tea in general. So I was like, okay, so maybe I splurge on a few calories and I get a latte. And so like non-dairy latte, like an almond milk or something, or like a soy milk or an oat milk. So I got, they have a minty green tea latte with almond milk. So it's probably like less than 60 calories or something, or less. I think it's like, I'm not sure exactly how many calories it is, but like it's not very many calories because the almond milk is probably like 20 ounces of almond milk is not that many calories. And the green tea minty green tea is 0 calories. It's not going to be very much. But it went from being like my black coffee to like being like white milk. But it tastes good. It tastes minty. I need to learn how to make this. It kind of tastes like a London fog a little bit, but like minty. Anyway, so that's the big thing is like I read halfway through, and I was like journaling about it today too. I journaled a bunch of stuff about like where my trauma comes from, and I have like I have a lot of trauma that's built up in my body. I didn't realize like how like, because they talk about like trauma in the book, trauma big T and trauma little t. And trauma big T is like big events and like things that you would consider like traumatic events. So like the fact that I saw a car flip over and like coming home from work one night, or like the fact that I went through manic episodes, or like the fact that, you know, I had, but then there's like trauma little t, which is like, dealing with, an alcoholic father who was abusive to my mother, over an extended period of time, or the fact that I got bullied in school for my weight, the fact that I got bullied for my looks, the fact that I got bullied, the fact that I had been emotionally abused. I picked boyfriends that emotionally abused me. The fact that I had jobs that were really stressful, and I wasn't able to emotionally handle those jobs in a sustainable way. And I kept trying to work around them, and I wasn't able to deal with them emotionally. The fact that so it's like there's the big events, the big stuff, but then there's like the death by 1,000 little cuts. It's comments, it's moments, it's little things that stick with you and make it so that you deal with the pressure of not being able to handle reality in the same way. And so it's just having to reprocess and learn over the years, like, you know, undo what has been done up to this point. So I've been working through it. They talked about some therapy called craniospinal therapy, which is like where they massage your neck, head, and shoulders. And so, because I never talked about this with a doctor, but like I have such horrible neck pain. Like I am constantly doing this to get rid of neck pain. And like I never really thought about that being associated with like trauma or anything like that. It's just like I thought that was like a process of like getting older and like that. But I traced it back and I was like, well, that's from like working. And I was like, well, maybe it just because like I had a stressful job, and like I was like, well, you know, maybe that's just like the byproduct of getting older. And I was like, well, maybe it's not a byproduct of getting older. Maybe it's the fact that I held all of this in my body, and like my body is holding on to that in the tissue that you're not supposed to, you know, that the body isn't supposed to experience all that pain. But I noticed recently, since doing like yoga and stuff, that I don't experience as much tension in my neck as I used to. Like, I will try to pop my neck, and I don't need to pop my neck as much, so maybe I don't need it. I don't know. But it'd be a while there where every time I go to pop my neck, it'd be like crack, 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 crack. So maybe yoga is helping me. I don't know. Maybe I need to do more yoga. Maybe I'm working through things. Maybe journaling is helping. But this book on trauma is really like enlightening to me, to the fact that like my body holds on to things, and I'm holding on, and it talks about fat being the solution to a problem that I'm holding on to. That the reason why I'm fat is because it's a solution to a problem. It's a solution to a problem. And so I need to work on, because I noticed that I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety around food. I have a lot of anxiety around eating. And I think the root cause of what is causing me to eat, especially at night, because I think I'm like a sundowner, is that, especially at night, is that I start to think about all of these traumatic events. Because like when I'm settling at night, is I start to think about like my brain doesn't want to, because during the daytime I'm like busy, or I'm like sleeping, or like I'm doing something, and I'm distracted. I'm distracted by social media. I'm distracted by like whatever it is I'm doing. I'm distracted by talking to my mom. I'm distracted by like whatever it is. But then like at night, there's nothing to distract me. So I'm like, oh, don't like that feeling. Don't like that feeling. So I do a couple things. I either purchase a lot of goods and I spend a lot of money, or I eat a lot of sugary food and like processed food, which causes inflammation in the body and causes me to hold on to weight. And I'm not processing things in a way that feels good. Because it's not just about the food. It's not just about the food. It's about processing the trauma. It's about that my body is holding on to the trauma in my body, and that I am not processing it in a normal way. So I need to work on processing that trauma in a normal way. That's why I'm disabled. I need to work on processing my trauma in a normal way. Or not even a normal way, in a healthier way. Because there's no such thing as a normal way, but like maybe a better way. A more useful way. So the first step for me is journaling. I'm just journaling all the time, journaling all my feelings, just getting it out. Getting all the feelings out, doing all the thoughts. When I get up in the morning, I journal. I'm journaling throughout the day. I'm thinking about things. I'm getting it down on paper. Because journaling helps me process. And reading books about what I'm experiencing is gonna help me. Because it's not just about the food. It's not just about the food. I truly believe that books and things come into your life at the right moment when you need them. I was watching a video. This is how I came across this book, Trauma. Is that I was watching a video and a woman was talking about what is it called when you can process, like you can deal with the big stuff, like you can deal with big events, like you can deal with those just fine, but like little things, you like can't deal with like little things. Like little things just like irritate you or like make you so mad that you just like freak out. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's complex trauma. And that's called a low stress tolerance. So then I started looking into like, I was so fascinated. I watched this video on what complex trauma is. And I was like, well, I don't necessarily have complex trauma, but like I was looking at what it means to have a low stress tolerance. And I was so fascinated listening to different forms of trauma that I was like, I want to download, see if there's any books at the library, on the library app about trauma. So I do over to the Libby app and I looked up complex trauma and a whole book about trauma comes up and I'm like, wow, a whole book about trauma. And it's got several different chapters about different aspects of trauma that people deal with. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Not literally crazy, but like that's wild. Okay. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, we're doing yesterday's video about the meditation video. I got 9 views, 1 comment, or 2 comments, and 1 like, for a grand total of 12 cents. So I have saved up to this point 52 cents towards my camera. Woo, 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 woo. But so if you want to comment an emoji, comment a wave, because we are in Muskegon and we are right on the beach. Comment a wave. I'll leave a whoop 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 wave. I could talk about this for hours, like just all the aspects, because I want to do a podcast with Donnie about this, because I think that this would be so fascinating to talk about, because they talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, like the rest and digest versus the it's so fascinating to me, like the fact that we like truly believe that we're in rest and digest and we are like in a high cortisol environment, and there are things that are like that animals, after they get into high stress situations, they just shake it off, and they can just like shake it off. But we pretend that we can just relax, and there's no relaxing, that there's no getting that stress out. And there's no way for us to process the stress that we're in or that we've experienced. There's no way for us to process those emotions in a normal way. Well, there is. But that's why we have to be physical. That's why we've done physical things like walking and dancing and running and all sorts of things. That's why we're physical creatures. And I think that's why we have the rise in mental illness in our society. Is because we haven't had a chance to process all of the things that are ailing us. And we're not allowed that. I think that being more physical in whatever way you can be physical, disabilities aside, I think that even with disabilities, that being a certain amount of physical, I understand that flares do happen, so I understand that sometimes it's not possible to be physical. Believe me, I understand. It's just like for the vast majority of people, processing trauma starts with being a certain amount of physical. But like, I understand that like with certain disabilities, it's hard to be physical because like you cannot be physical. So like it sucks. But like with most people suffering with like anxiety, depression, certain things, and you are able-bodied, or you do have the ability to move, moving is one of the best ways to deal with those symptoms. I do also notice that one of the biggest modalities that the book talks about is yoga. Have you tried yoga? It is not the only thing. It is not the only thing that they talk about. They talk about EMDR. They talk about all sorts of different medicines to deal with trauma. But like one of the biggest things is dealing with is yoga, because yoga helps deal with the fascia tissue, and meditation. And like people like knock those things as like oh, those things don't work. But the thing about it is that for a lot of people those things do work. And I understand if those things don't work for you, but for a lot of people those things do work. Oh, I finished my latte. Oh, that was good. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll see you on the next one. Comment that blue wave. Okay, bye.